Welcome back to the official review. I'm Jonny, that's Steve, that's Sam, and today we are looking at the 2025 NFL season. More specifically, which teams that made it in the playoffs last year won't make it again this year. Now, every year, historically speaking, there have been at least 4 teams from the previous season that made the playoffs that don't make it the next year. So, Steve, we'll start with you. Which playoff team from last year is not going to make it again this year?
I just want to preface this and say in 2023, I predicted every single team that made it the previous year that didn't make it the next year. So I do think I'm pretty good at this. For this NFL season, this is an easy one. I don't think the Chargers are going to make the playoffs this year. And that doesn't mean I don't think they're good or that Justin Herbert's going to fall off or anything. I just think if you look at the AFC, there are other teams emerging and the AFC West is still tough. I think the Broncos are going to be better than them. I think the Chiefs are going to be better than them. The Raiders aren't going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be better than the Chargers. So I think there's a legit chance the Chargers are actually the 4th best team in the AFC West. So I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Interesting. Why do you think, what specifically about the Chargers do you think is going to lead to a fall off?
I just don't think they're winners. I mean, I don't even think it's going to be that big of a fall off. Like I said, I just think the other teams in their division are all better. And I think teams like the Patriots and teams like the Ravens and the Bengals, I think the Bengals are going to make it this year. They didn't make it last year. So I just don't think there's enough spots for the Chargers to make it. So it's not that they lost. I think the NFL playoffs just ran out of room.
I think there's been a lot of Broncos hype coming out of training camp as well. A lot of teams that are projected to do better, and it seems like the Chargers are sort of coming in with a similar roster.
Sam, who do you got for your team?
So I was sort of torn between 2 teams, but I think I'll just go with the Steelers. Pretty easy one here as far as what could happen. Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old. He's also coming off of the worst year in his career. He's certainly sort of is unfamiliar with the offense here, and traditionally he's liked throwing to guys that he's played with before. He ended up throwing to Lazard and Devontae Adams more last year on the Jets, and sort of was phasing out Garrett Wilson, who's obviously very talented and was on my fantasy team. And we're in a PPR league, so that was annoying. But they also have the 9th toughest schedule in the NFL. They're in the division with the Bengals and the Ravens. I think this team is old and experienced, which could lend to success, but also could lead to a lot of injuries as well. Relying completely on 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a winning bet.
My thing is, like, last year they didn't have a good quarterback either. I mean, Russell Wilson was okay. And Mike Tomlin just wins just enough to kind of get in there. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, but they're kind of just a team that knows how to do just enough to get in the playoffs. But at the same time, if they don't make the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years of Mike Tomlin football has shown us that he can get you 8 wins. Like, no matter who the quarterback is, he can get you 8 wins. So the question is can Aaron Rodgers get you, 2 more wins or 3 more wins than a guy like Mason Rudolph, who was quarterback and got 8 wins? I don't know. I think of any team, they are most likely to fall out of any playoff team from last year. So I think that's a safe bet. But again, it's hard to bet against Mike Tomlin. And this kind of feels like last bets. Like, if this doesn't hit for the Steelers, Tomlin's probably gone. Like, Rodgers is retiring. Like, this is a last hurrah for so many parts of the Steelers. So who knows?
Pressure's on.
Jonny,
who's your team?
I had a couple brewing in the NFC. I think there are 2 NFC North teams that are pretty vulnerable this year, the Vikings and the Lions, honestly.
Ooh.
But I think my best bet for the NFC are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh.
They had maybe one of the most detrimental brain drains outside of the Lions in losing their offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, this offseason. It's, that's an offense that Baker Mayfield even said was built by Liam Cohen. It just feels like there's so many other teams in the NFC South. I mean, I kind of like what the Panthers are doing this offseason.
Interesting.
Where they're at. I think the Falcons are probably the favorite to win the division, and that team's not getting a wild card team. I mean, the Saints are going to be awful this year. I just think the Buccaneers, Mike Evans is getting older. Chris Godwin they brought back, I don't even know when he's going to play this year.
He's coming off of an injury.
Yeah. So they have some young receivers, McMillan and who's the guy they drafted this year?
Oh, Emeka Mbuka from Ohio State.
Yeah, Mbuka from Ohio State. They have some young receivers, but they're very raw. We'll see what Bucky Irvin can do. I mean, he looked great last year. A full year of him as a starter may make a lot for that offense, but I just think they're in a very tenuous position. losing Liam Cohen, and then a full year of the Falcons with Penix, who I think will be much better than Kirk Cousins was for most of the season last year. I just think it's the Falcons division this year.
Damn. I would say out of all three of our predictions, that one is probably the most bold, just because I view that as the worst division in football. However, so much can change over an offseason. And yeah, Michael Penix Jr. could totally take the Falcons to the playoffs this year. That's a talented roster. Also, one thing about the Falcons is Michael Penix Jr. has made a point that he's going to get Kyle Pitts the ball more this year. So that offense can look completely different this year. So I don't hate the pick, but I will say it's definitely more bold than Sam in my our choices.
I think Bijan offensive player of the year this year. So
True. They do perhaps have the number one fantasy pick and probably the best or second best running back in the NFL.
I like the angle you're going with, though, the brain drain. That's an interesting way to put it when, you know, the roster is pretty talented, of course, coming off some injuries and whatnot, but doesn't work if the engine isn't running.
It's also the third OC in a row, right? I think they had a different OC 2 years ago. I think Dave Canales, who now coaches the Panthers. Yeah, I mean, it is Baker Mayfield's probably fourth or fifth offensive coordinator in 4 years. So yeah, maybe it's the year where he finally is like, dude, I can't do this again. What are we doing?
We'll see. I mean, Baker can learn on the fly. We saw that in LA when he comes in on 2 days.
That's true.
Learns the offensive playbook and wins the game. It wasn't a good game, but he executed the last drive correctly, which is very hard.
There are like few NFL quarterbacks who per his talent level, like Baker can put a team on his back. He's a great leader. He can rally up a locker room, which is just why I believe in this team. I think he's the most important part of that franchise. While last year with the Lions, like you kind of mentioned them, like Ben Johnson is I think a bigger loss than Liam Cohen. So if the Lions don't make the Falcons, that'd be pretty wild. Yeah, exactly.
Real quick, just to my Lions slander, I think they're a team that's poised for regression. They just seem like last year was their year to do it. And unfortunately, the defensive injuries got the best of them. Obviously, they're going to be a lot healthier this year. I have to see it with this new, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, because Dan Campbell is an energy guy. Like, he is a clubhouse guy. He's not really that much of an X and O's guy. So he just lost his offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator. It's just going to be, I don't know, it could be one of those years where just things don't get going for them out of the gate. And then they look up and they're 5-5, 5-6 in week 11, week 12. And they're like, well, we have to step things up into gear. And who knows if they can by the end of the year.
I think the Lions, like, if they get off to like a little bit of an iffy start, if the momentum's just not there, I could see it going down quickly. Like, I feel like last year truly was their year. They lost a lot, but you know what? To me, the most important part of the team outside the quarterback is the offensive line. And I think Penny Sewell is the best offensive lineman in the NFL. So,
but they also lost Ragnow too. Ragnow retired.
True. He retired, right? Frank Ragnow?
Yeah.
That's true, man. Yeah, the Lions. I would hate Lions. They need to get off to a fast start or it's going to get pretty ugly there. The moment they start calling for Dan Campbell's head, done.
I feel like it would be a stretch if they missed the playoffs, but you can definitely see them taking a few steps back for sure.
Well, like, the moment they find out they're not a contender, then maybe it just starts dripping off even more. Because like it must be so depleting to be the Lions. Like that loss to the 49ers 2 years ago. Last year in the playoffs, just kind of they lost to the Commanders. Like a lot of people didn't think they were going to lose that game, so maybe it's already started.
Which team do you think is going to miss the playoffs next year? Let us know in the comments.